This video is made possible by Skillshare. Join the millions of users already learning by heading to Skillshare at the link below to get your first 2 months of premium membership for free. The Mongols under Genghis Khan would grow rapidly into a large organized empire. The land flourished in Mongol law, and they financed their state through large-scale raids. The Chinese of the Jin and the Song dynasty were no match for the rapid horse-based warfare of the Mongols, whose entire strategy was based on lightning warfare. By 1271, Kublai Khan was crowned Great Khan and Emperor of all China, beginning the Yuan dynasty. The Mongols brought with them their law, customs, and steppe traditions which blended with those of East Asia. Commerce and technology increased in the multi-ethnic empire, but it did not last very long. An inflation crisis due to the overissue of Mongol currency, as well as quite a few earthquakes, started to make the Chinese question whether heaven really wanted the Yuan Mongols to rule, and soon an all-out revolt ensued, with Huanzhang driving the Mongols back to Central Asia and crowning himself the first Ming emperor. The last two dynasties of China were the Ming and the Qing. Both presided over China's early modern period and shared similarities in policy. 1. Isolationism. Both dynasties pursued aggressive self-defense measures amid quite a lot of xenophobia. This manifested in the cutting of funding to the navy to fund other projects such as the Great Wall. 2. Both had terrible mismanagement of money. Being unwilling to trade with foreign powers beyond the port of Canton led to an increased self-reliance and decreased sphere of influence. 3. Both failed to recognize the threat of foreign powers in their waters, all of whom would play a direct role in collapsing the dynastical system by the turn of the century. China's unwillingness to modernize and trade with the West would lead indirectly to the Opium Wars and the Taiping Rebellion by parties like the British, French, and Japanese, who had a vested interest in opening up China to trade and Christianity. This in turn would spark the Boxer Rebellion as a counter-revolt against foreign influence in China. The Qing had dealt with none of these problems well enough, and soon revolts were more common than peace. Critiques view the failure of the Qing as the century of humiliation. In 1912, the Qin collapsed, and China fractured into numerous pieces of independent states called cliques, also known as the Warlord era. China would need to unify, and to do that a republican movement under Sun Yat-sen allied with the communists under the CCP to fight the warlords on a united front. This went about as well as you would expect, with Kuomintang leader Chiang Kai-shek purging and executing communists en masse, breaking the fragile alliance. Soon, it was civil war, and the CCP were on the brink of annihilation. Were it not for a near miraculous retreat of thousands of kilometers under Mao Zedong, called the Long March. This incredible journey helped recruit new members, but the war had to be put on hold in 1932, when the Imperial Japanese Army invaded the Manchurian cliques and were now at the doorstep of China proper. With the threat of the Japanese, the two sides formed a united second front. The Japanese army invaded China in 1937 after a fabricated Chinese skirmish at the Marco Polo Bridge in Beijing. The war was tragic for the Chinese, with the second highest casualties of the entire Second World War. Millions of civilians and soldiers lost their lives for a state that did not technically exist. The ill-prepared and badly led Chinese armies were no match for the strict discipline of the Japanese Imperial Army, with many blunders during the invasion. At one point, the Republican Army even accidentally drowning 500,000 people while flooding the Yellow River in an attempt to halt the Japanese advance. After a 3-month-long siege at Shanghai, the devastated Republican Army retreated to the capital at Nanking, which fell to the Japanese on the 13th of December.
An event you probably haven't heard about in the West known as the Rape of Nanking. The Japanese were so senselessly brutal to the Chinese that the Nazi ambassador was the voice of reason and is now celebrated as a hero in China. His letters and journals from the time tell of how up to 300,000 people were raped and murdered during the occupation. There were even contests to see which officers could behead 100 people with their swords in the fastest time, the results of which were printed in Japanese newspapers with the same tone that you would expect to see when reporting on a baseball game. Why has this event been mostly forgotten to history and in some cases flat out denied? When you're done here, head on over to my channel to find out.
Please be sure to check out Knowing Better's channel in the link below for more on how entrenched the events at Nanking became on the collective Chinese psyche. Japan's war was stunningly successful. However, they began losing a lot of ground by 1945, since they were now fighting a four-front war. The stunning successes of the Communist Army and the failures of the Republican Army against the Japanese meant that the CCP was on much better footing in the minds of the people. The massive conflict had been an opportunity for Mao to prove his devotion to China, and millions flocked to his side. China's civil war resumed not long after, and with the help of the Soviet army in northern China, the tide turned in the CCP's favor. The Kuomintang's Republican Army were forced to retreat to the island of Taiwan, which still calls itself the Republic of China to this day. China was declared the People's Republic in 1949, with Mao named Supreme Chairman. He is infamous for the so-called necessary evils by which he ruled the mainland, both in terms of the starvation of millions of his own people during the Great Leap Forward, where industrialization caused a massive famine, and also the Cultural Revolution to dispose of old traditions and systems, resulting in the execution of thousands of dissidents. A controversial figure in both the West and the East, seen as both tyrant and liberator. China seemed like an ally of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, especially during their involvement in the Korean and Vietnam Wars against the West, but in reality, Sino-Soviet relations grew ever more antagonistic, reflecting their isolationist past. Much changed after Mao's death, and the government began to relinquish controls over the planned economy. However, the same year the Berlin Wall fell, when calls for democracy sparked protests in the Tiananmen Square, the Chinese government revealed to the world that they had not weakened and were not going to collapse like other socialist states, by firing on their own people. A more mixed economy of socialism and capitalism triumphed, and soon China's economy began to grow and industrialize at a rapid rate, becoming the first nation to surpass a population of 1 billion. Modern China experienced an even further modernization, becoming the world's manufacturing powerhouse for both low and high-quality products. However, even though economically China became more open, culturally they remained well and truly closed, with modern China being one of the most culturally isolated nations in the world. So much so that this video is illegal there. Chinese internet censorship is one of the strictest in the world, with the central government restricting access to YouTube and other Google services, as well as social media sites like Facebook and Twitter. But lucky for us, Skillshare is still available there. Want to learn how to do beautiful Chinese calligraphy? Maybe you'd like to master some conversational Mandarin, or perhaps you just want to learn how to make authentic chow mein. You can do all this from the comfort of your own home with Skillshare. With over 20,000 online courses, you can learn just about anything from design to science and technology, or even a new business skill. It's time for you to stop procrastinating and start learning something new today with your premium account. And just for Suibhne viewers, you can get 2 months premium subscription for free when you head to the link below. Head to Skillshare today to start learning, and rest assured you can continue learning when you visit China. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you're looking to help the channel in another way, you can head over to my Patreon page in the link below. Until next time.